Hello everyone, hope you're doing okay. Today's video is going to be on doing an oil change on a 4th generation Dodge Ram 3500. It's got the 6.7 Cummins in it. I chose to go back with OEM, and I'll explain, why. But everything you kind of need. It's a 2012 4th gen, so it's a 5W40 Valvoline Premium. We got original Mopar filters, fuel and oil. That is the upgraded Billet fuel housing cover. They're prone to strip and break right at where that nut is, so this is all a billet aluminum one. 28mm 6-point, half-inch drive ratchet, 3/8 drive for the oil pan, and a filter wrench. Probably need another quart of oil because I have a bypass kit on here, an AMSOIL one from Sinister, which I will delete. I mean, not delete, sorry. Drain. This is the first oil change with this on, so I'm going to drain it out. So it takes about 3.5 gallons of oil to fill it. Got a few bypass filters going. S&B cold air. Runs real good. 250,000 miles. I bought this truck from a couple that I know, really good friends of mine. It was all stock before I got it, and there were some problems with it. It's got the 68 RFE transmission, so everybody knows problems with those. As you can see, I did a billet line cooler upgrade. But I bought it fairly cheap compared to what they're worth, and put a lot of money into it. Got it running good. We're going to drop the oil and we're going to talk about the filters and why I went back with OEM versus other ones. Because when I got it and did the first oil change, there was them filters that you can just get at like Flying J's or one of those truck stop places. And there's definitely a difference between the filter quality and the oil quality. I believe they were running 1540 when I got it, and this engine calls for 540. And it was burning oil. Now it's not burning any oil. Switching back to Valvoline, it's not burning any oil, which is great. It's fantastic. It wasn't their fault. I think the truck was a hauler, so they leased it out. It was just whatever was on the road and convenient at the time. It was a moneymaker. But 250,000 miles, I got it now, and been doing the upgrades. It's been a great truck. So let's get the oil drop, talk about the filters, and get it started back up. Alright, so after you warm the engine up, you'll come underneath the truck. That's the front of the oil pan. Nice and clean for 250,000 miles. You come back, and you'll find the drain plug, which is a 3/8 drive. No socket needed. Just your standard 3/8 drive. Goes right in there. Make sure it's fully seated. It'll go all the way up. And then just back your plug out. Get it to the very last threads. And remove. Ooh. Careful of it splattering. It definitely got everywhere on my lawn. I'm sorry, my driveway. Gotta clean that up for sure. It's a lot of oil that comes out. About 3.5 gallons with the bypass system. So let me get this all drained out. As the oil is draining, come and loosen your oil cap. Yours may look different than mine. And pull the dipstick out and just set it up here. That'll allow some air to go through the system and allow the oil to evacuate quicker. And just let it drain out. Alright, after all the oil has drained out, we'll replace the drain plug, and I go into the passenger side wheel well with the filter wrench right above the upper control arm towards the front. I reach in there and I just give it a couple turns to the left just to break it, go back underneath and remove it. Alright, once it's loose from the underside of the passenger front, you can reach the filter. It's pretty clear. You see the turbo there with the air intake. Just reach up there and spin it off by hand slowly and bring it down. Alright, and if you did it correctly, you can see the very minimal oil. I didn't spill any taking it down. Got the drain pan right underneath there. Again, it was easy shot down. And there it is. No oil spilled. So we'll compare the two filters now. You can see that the filters are the same size. They look about identical as far as the tops go, the anti-drain back valve and everything. But I believe that the Mopar one goes down to a maybe 5 micron. Let me see, I'm looking at the box right now. 300 psi. It doesn't say. I believe it's 5 microns. I like to fill the new filter up because I can screw it straight on. So I'm gonna fill this up with some oil and we're gonna screw it back up. But the Mopar one was, I don't remember how much I paid for it. It wasn't much, maybe like $15, about the same as this. I ordered that online, waited a couple days, and it came. I'll post the prices in the comment or in the description. Alright, once we got the filter back in place, screw it on hand tight. Once it makes some contact, about 3/4 to a full turn, no more. People wrench everything on, same thing with this drain plug. You know, people put it on like the Hercules for some reason, but you don't need to. Next thing we're going to do is drain out the fuel out of the fuel filter housing there. And the drain out line comes right down there. And we'll drain it out into the bucket. Let's get that drained. As you can see, we got it draining down. Just opened up that yellow valve right there to the left, about a 1/4 turn. It's a 28mm to get that cap off. So we'll go ahead and twist it off. Let me get some light in there. Alright, that's probably a little better. We'll take that 28mm plastic cap off right there. Alright, the easiest way to get the fuel filter housing off is to get an extension or a couple extensions long enough and get some type of a swivel on the end. It's a swivel extension with your 28mm, and it comes off fairly easy. You come back to the back side of the plug and we are free. So we'll get all that out and get it laid out and take a look at it. Okay, we got the fuel filter out. That's the new Mopar one. O-ring is the same exact as the Cummins brand. The difference I noticed about the Cummins brand is it looks like it has a pre-screen or some type of mesh. It's pretty hard. It's like a plastic. So that might be an additional layer of filtering. And I don't see that on the Mopar one. So I'm going to drop the new Mopar one in. Depending on price, which I'll drop in the description, that'll be dependent on what filter I go with, because looking at the Cummins one, I see an extra screen in there. That means it's filtering something else extra that the dealership one is not. So we'll see what happens with fuel pressures and everything and see how it drives. Alright, here we got the fuel door, or the fuel filter housing caps. This is your standard Cummins one, 6.7. This is the upgraded Billet one. It's much heavier. This area won't round out. Usually in these plastic ones, they snap off right here, they round out, and the housing gets stuck and you end up having to break it off and potentially break the housing itself. So we just upgraded to the Billet one. We'll see how it fits down there we'll get cleaned up with some brake clean. Alright, it dropped on fairly easy. I read some reviews on these things. People said that they don't screw on the housing properly. Mine actually lined up pretty well. I like to drop them on and spin them backwards a half turn before I tighten them. But it lined up where you can read it, and everything went on pretty good. Hopefully it don't leak when we start it. Let's get the oil back in. Alright, I got the Sinister Diesel oil bypass kit. The easiest way to change the filter or dump the oil in between changing the filter at the oil service interval is just to unscrew the 3 8mm hex head bolts and remove the entire housing. Loosen the filter first, drop it, and it'll sit on top of the power steering pump down there. And then just take the housing off, wipe everything off, pull the filter out, dump it, or change it. If I'm changing it, I'll add fresh oil to it. If it's in between a service change, I'll dump the old oil out and just screw it back on empty and let the oil pump fill the filter back up with fresh oil. So we'll get it back together, get everything primed up and started. Alright, so we added the 3 gallons of oil. We filled the primary filter with oil before we put it on, and we drained the bypass filter. That's the AMSOIL filter by Sinister, and screwed it back on because this has only been on for about 7,000 miles. I think they're good for like 60,000, but I'll probably change it every other interval. We got the Billet aluminum filter housing cap on there. Looks good. No leaks or anything. Started it up. It'll take a second. The engine will catch and then it'll stall out. Shut it back down. Start the engine back up. This type of Cummins has enough power to draw enough fuel back into the fuel bowl and then fire off the injectors. So you don't need to fill this fuel housing. Actually, I don't even think they recommend it because of contaminants getting in there. So I totally dry mine out. Drop the dry filter in there, put the housing back on, and then let the engine prime itself. Works every time, no issues. So we'll get back and we'll talk about it. So between the Mopar and the Fleet Guard, depending on price, I will probably choose whichever's cheaper because they look about the same. The fuel filters, the Cummins one looks better than the OEM one by Dodge. So I will probably end up spending on the Cummins one, but I'll look it up and we'll see what the part is, see how much they are, and like I said, I'll drop it in the description. But other than that, it was a pretty easy change out, fired right up. I'll start doing the oil analysis on it and making sure everything runs good and see how long the oil change intervals are. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.